And welcome back to Capitol Tonight. Well, heading into the November elections, the fight over the 7th Senate District on Long Island was not viewed as one of the state's most hotly contested races. And boy, were we ever wrong about that. Democrat incumbent Craig Johnson's moderate record led a lot of people to think that he was actually safe in spite of the closely divided enrollment in the district. But when the dust settled, just a few hundred votes separated Johnson from his Republican challenger Jack Martins. The recount process has played out in the courts ever since, and on Monday the state's highest court ruled against Johnson, certifying Martins as the winner. We are joined tonight by Senator Johnson. He is with us from New York City. Senator, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you, Liz.
Well, we should say we're sorry about the outcome of this. It must be difficult, particularly as it took so many months for this thing to get, or weeks, I should say, for this thing to finish.
You know, I don't necessarily agree with that in the sense that, look, we live in a democracy. The residents of the 7th Senatorial District, in a very close election, decided that they wanted to have a change, and that's fine. That's the process we live in. I think what was important about the race, but more importantly about the aftermath, was trying to establish the precedent for what to do in close elections given these new voting machines. And I think that one thing that really did not get resolved in this election process was what's going to happen in the future with close races. Because unfortunately, the New York Court of Appeals on Monday decided to punt, notwithstanding the fact they established a schedule for the courts to hear these issues. Notwithstanding the fact that both sides made, made very compelling arguments about how to decide a close election. The Court of Appeals did a very short brief and answered that they weren't going to answer. And so my only concern in future races, whether it's the Senate, the Assembly, governor, is if you have a close election, we still don't know what the standard is going to be on doing a manual recount.
Okay, what the Court of Appeals said, if I remember correctly, and to really just parse it down just briefly, there were 451 votes that separated you from Martins, right? And I think that the court said too close. It doesn't matter if we do a hand recount because it's not going to change the outcome. So you're saying that you disagree with that?
Well, I don't know. I didn't realize that in order to become a judge on the Court of Appeals, you had to have the ability to see, into the future and have the ability to count when you don't have actual counted. I have no idea. Senator-elect Martins, and I congratulated him, and I think, he'll go on and work on behalf of the residents. But, we have no idea whether or not the votes are in there or not. And I think that it's not very good for residents, and there's no comfort. They were able to cast their vote, but they really should be able to understand if their vote has actually been counted. And we don't know. But we'll never know. And look, I'm a big boy, and I've had the honor to represent this district for almost 4 years. And I'm very proud of our record that we've accomplished in the New York State Senate in this district. And we'll move on.
Part of the record, though, of the Democrats was that there were only 32 members, and now the Republicans have this problem. But there was this razor-thin majority, which forced a number of marginals, we call them, or people who are in more, say, conservative districts that are closely divided. In your case, that used to be held by the Republicans. Mike Balboni was the senator before Eliot Spitzer plucked him to become Homeland Security czar. There were some bad votes that you had to take. There was, for example, the MTA bailout, which I think was very controversial in your district. Do you blame leadership for that? Do you wish that you had bucked the leadership and done it differently?
Well, I think you know my record, Liz, as somebody who does buck the leadership. Take my charter school vote, which also was a very controversial vote. I angered probably the largest Democratic base, the teachers union, both of them, for standing up for what I believe is right when it comes to education reform. I mean, certainly I think that, leadership has a role to play here when it comes to the reason why moderate Democrats like myself, like my good friends Darrell Albertine, Brian Foley, Bill Stokowski, but he's been replaced by Tim Kennedy, who will do an excellent job. But, when the three of us lose over votes, like whether it's the MTA payroll tax or whether it's the Star rebate check, certainly leadership probably should have done a better job in making sure that we were protected in taking these votes. But, at the end of the day, it's my record. It's not leadership's record. And I stand by the record. We need to make sure that the MTA is running. The fact is that the constituents of the 7th Senatorial District, many of them take the train in and out of the city. They are part of an important economy, one of the world's largest economies in New York City, and they need to get in in and out of the city. You know, the Star Rebate check was a very costly program, over about $1.5 billion. You know, now there are calls for returning the Star Rebate check. Well, Senator Skelos, the new majority leader, and congratulations to him and his team. The fact is that the Senator Skelos is going to have to now tackle a $10 billion budget deficit.
Okay, but here's the problem. Here's the problem. What you're talking about, actually, you're highlighting an ideological split and it's going to happen to the Republicans too. You have more conservative members of the conference, then you have more moderate members of the conference. In the Democrats' case, is it even possible that the Democrats are going to be able to ever get back the majority? I understand that, you know, in terms of enrollment, they've got that on their side. They're going to redraw the lines. Even if the Republicans control it, it's going to be difficult. But how do you form a consensus in a conference that's dominated really by downstate New York City liberal interests?
You know, look, I think it's going to be a very difficult time for the Democratic minority. No doubt that, you know, Senator Skelos is going to have a difficult time as well. They're going to have to make some very tough choices, even tougher than the choices that we had to make. We hit the low-hanging fruit, so to speak, when it came to budget cuts. Senator Skelos has to now find and work with Governor-elect Cuomo and the Assembly Speaker to find $10 billion. And you know Shelley Silver as well as I do. You know, I don't know how easy he's going to be to work with to that end. You know, the Democratic Minority Conference need to decide, you know, what's their role going to be. Are they going to try to work with Senator Skelos and the other parties, or are they going to be able to find unity and provide, you know, a real, you know, give Senator Skelos a real difficult time? You know, Senator Skelos did a terrific job, you know, unifying his conference and providing a lot of no votes. As I recall, there were only a couple times where you were able to peel off one or two members of the Republican conference to get them to vote for things. You know, can the same be said for the Democratic conference? I don't know, and I think you know, that's going to be a very difficult time for the Democratic conference.
Do you believe that John Sampson should continue to be leader?
You know, I like John. I think that there are a lot of questions out there. And look, you know, that was something else that came up during the campaign was AEG. You know, something I had absolutely nothing to do with at all. And yet, you know, my name was included in a footnote and that became an issue. I think there are a lot of unanswered questions when it comes to AEG. And that's something that whether it's going to be, you know, the next steps coming out of the Fish report, whether it's, you know, in the courts or whether it's in the Senate. You know, I don't know who's going to chair the Senate Investigations Committee, but, you know, I don't know what the Republicans are going to want to do with AEG.
There was
I think there are a lot of unanswered questions.
But there was a vote of confidence, was there not? And actually, outgoing members participated in that. So how did you vote?
No, actually, outgoing members did not participate in that.
Oh, but you were in the room.
I was in the room.
Okay, I see. But no, but outgoing members were not allowed to vote. Would you have voted for him?
I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know.
You know, there was also criticism of the DSCC, that's the political arm that the Senate Democrats run, and perhaps that some money was spent on races that it shouldn't have been spent on, not enough money elsewhere, maybe too much on Brian Foley's race when it was quite clear that he was probably going to lose. Do you feel that they botched the way that they spent money?
I think Jeff Klein did an outstanding job. I think that the criticism that's been leveled recently towards the deputy now minority leader is extremely unfair. I don't think that we would have been in the position when it comes to fundraising without Jeff and Jeff's leadership. With that said, obviously, you know, it's very easy to look at things in hindsight and decide, you know, where you want to put your money best spent. A lot of the races that happened, Liz, you know, were about local issues. You know, you said it at the very beginning. The MTA payroll tax in my district and Brian's district, maybe the Star Rebate up north. You know, Darrell Albertine's seat was historically a very, very, very Republican seat. But then do the flip side. David Carlucci would not be a senator today without Jeff Klein. Tony Avella would not be a senator today without Jeff Klein. Jeff Klein pushed them, made sure the money was going right, made sure the troops were in there. You know, I think Jeff Klein deserves a lot of credit when it comes to the successes of the DSCC, but certainly not the failures.
He was bounced out of the DSCC, and now it's going to be Senator-elect Mike Gianaris.
You know, I like Senator-elect Mike Gianaris. I certainly would not have counseled Senator Klein to bounce. I'm sorry, I would not have counseled Senator Sampson to bounce or get rid of Jeff Klein. Jeff Klein deserved to stay, and I think it's a loss. You know, Jeff was a very good voice when it comes to moderate Democrats. Jeff is one of the leading moderates when it comes to the New York State Senate. And certainly, you know, if you're trying to attract moderate Democrats to participate in 2012, getting rid of Jeff Klein as your DSCC chair was not the way to do it.
You know, you actually, and there was some question, do you feel you did enough in your race? Because in the 27-day post report, you've got about $169,000. Are you building up for something, maybe a rematch in 2012, or did you spend that all on the recount?
You know, we didn't spend it all on the recount at all. Look, you know, we were taking in a lot of money. If you look at the 10 pre-day filing, we did a lot of raising over the last 10 days. We knew where this race was going. We knew it was going to be extremely tight. A lot of outside money was coming in. I think what's unfortunate, and if you look at the filings, that Senator-elect Martins never actually really filed on time, if at all. I think he just recently made a filing, you know, way late when it came to his filings. But that's, you know, neither here nor there. Senator-elect Martins, you know, is now the senator, and again, I congratulated him.
But will you run against him in 2012?
I'm sorry, but I can't hear you. I hear a lot of static in the background.
Will you run against him in 2012?
I mean, look at it this way. You have a lot of people who haven't decided they're running for president. It's 2010 still. It's still
Wait, you're going to run for president, Senator? Hold on now.
Hey, you have right now, the current president was a state senator at one point. But in all seriousness, I've had a terrific past couple of weeks. I'm really focusing on the two most important jobs I have, which is husband and father. It's been a terrific time with my kids and with my wife, Liz. And, you know, I'll make all the determinations, you know, I have in the future. But I will say this, if I can, Liz. You know, one of the things that's troubling me right now is if you read today's papers, Nassau County's finances. You know, Nassau County's finances are in the toilet. You know, I was honored to serve as a county legislator. I was chairman of the Finance Committee in Nassau County until I was elected to the New York State Senate. You know, when I left Nassau County, it was on solid financial footing. And over the past couple of years, both Democrats and Republicans have done a pretty lousy job. We're about to have a control board come in and take over Nassau County's finances. That didn't have to be. It's going to be. And I think that that's something that we, myself as a Nassau County resident, but all Nassau County residents, really need to, you know, get a grasp of, because we are going to have a real problem over the next few months.
Does that make you want to return to local service at the county level?
You know, what I'm looking to do right now is, you know, sit down with my family, enjoy my family. You know, as I made very clear in my statement, you know, I enjoy public service. And whatever my future may hold, we'll find out, you know, as the days come along. But I have to say that I love living in Nassau County. You know, I was raised there, I sent my kids to school there, and I'm just really troubled by what's been going on. As a member of the majority, I worked very closely with, you know, the prior county executive to pass certain measures that would make better financial decisions for him. You know, now we're in a situation where really bad financial decisions have happened over the past year, and we're in this real mess that we're about to become the second county, Erie being the first, to have this fiscal control board, and I think that's disheartening.
And it also doesn't bode well for a lot of local governments, I think. I want to thank you very much. It's been good to see you, Craig Johnson, and we'll probably be seeing you again. I sort of get the feeling. Thanks a lot.
Happy holidays, Liz. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Craig. I appreciate it.